Hey, Tori.
Hey Melissa,
How are you?
I'm good. Just, trying not to get rained out over here.
Yeah. So everybody that's watching our hangout today, Tori's in the middle of a big Florida thunderstorm, so if you hear rumbling, just
It's my
don't,
tummy.
yeah, don't panic. It's fine. And Tori has a big announcement to make for everybody, so I'll let you take it, Tori.
Okay. Yeah, a new thing that we're going to be rolling out with Authority Labs is some kind of Excel formatting macros that will run. So you'll be able to download these macro files and run them on your computer, and then it'll automatically format your data um, by running the macro. So it's really, really cool. We're working on it, working out the last few bugs now, so that's something that you should definitely keep an eye and ear out for coming up soon. Yeah, so that's basically it about that.
All right. So today we're talking about basic formulas in Excel.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah. Okay, so we're basically just going to cover the sum formula. So we're going to start off like super simple. The sum formula is not intimidating. It's really, really simple to do. It takes like 2 seconds. We're going to go next to the concatenate formula, which is actually really simple too, but it's kind of like, a gateway. How I always bring you guys in with like a little gateway drug, like, okay, this isn't as scary, but it's a little bit more intense. So that's what we're going to do, concatenate, and then the final thing is a Vlookup, which is super important. I find it really helpful with a lot of different reports that I work on, and it is a little bit more intense on the front end, but once you get it, it's good and it's ready to roll. So I'm going to go into screen sharing and start this. Okay. So here we are in Excel. We're going to start over here with the sum formula. And today I just started with 3 different sheets, and we're just going to start from there. Usually I start you guys off on the raw data, and I take you all the way through the formatting, but today we're just going to kind of skip ahead to make sure that we get through all the formulas. So just to give you a peek, my raw data tab, I always have a raw data tab. It's the very rare time that you ever see grid lines in any of my work, and it's just to identify that here's the data that I literally just copied in from my CSV export from Google Analytics, Screaming Frog, and Authority Labs, and it's just really unformatted, ugly data that I can go back to if I mess anything up or blow up my Excel sheet. So I'm going to start in the sum formula, and that is the first tab and this sheet will be available to you guys. I always have it in the recap, so stay tuned to that if you want this sheet. So the sum formula is super simple. We're going to start it over here. And to start any formula off, you start it with an equal sign. So I'm literally just typing in an equal sign into my cell, and I'm going to start by typing in the word sum. So you can see here that Excel's like, oh, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? They're trying to give you all these different options, like, oh, what formula do you want to do now? So we're going to start with sum, and I can either select this or I can just, hit the open bracket to say that I want to go to the next option. So the idea behind the sum formula, we're just getting the sum of something. We're adding something. So we can do this by either selecting one number and hitting the comma and then selecting another number, and that'll take the sum of those 2 numbers. And I'm going to just close this parentheses, these brackets, and hit enter. So that's a really funky number. To get rid of that percentage formatting, just a quick tip, you go up into this under the Home tab, and under Numbers, you can change this to General Formatting. So the next thing we're going to do, so that's taking the sum of 2 numbers, and that's definitely an option. Or we could go ahead, and I'm actually going to bring this cell over here. These are just formatting things, just coloring. And I can go ahead and take the sum of multiple numbers by just, again, entering the equal sign, typing in sum, then the open bracket, and I can take the sum of multiple numbers by just dragging my cursor down over these numbers. And you can see here in the formula that it says Table 2 ranking. So this table is called Table 2. Excel automatically names that for you, so you don't have to. If you want to give it a more intuitive name, you can do that, but that's kind of another tool for another day. Then you can see that this is the ranking column, and it'll tell you that. So then I'm just going to close my brackets and hit enter. So this is really helpful because, I can take the sum of all my rankings from my top 10 keywords from Authority Labs. I can say that I want to see how well they're ranking. It's also, I would say it's a little bit more, helpful if I change this to maybe the volume column. So I can do that. I can edit this at any time just by double clicking on it. So to do that, I just double clicked, and now I'm inside the formula options again, and I can select this and change it to volume. And you can see here in this little tiny option that it actually says, oh, you want to change it to volume? Because that's the other column you have there. So I can do that, and I can just hit woohoo. Whoop, 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 whoop. I can hit tab, or I can just type in the rest of it and hit enter. So that'll take the volume of, or the sum of the volume of all my rankings, or my top 10 rankings. So yeah, so it's basically for the sum formula. You can, take the sum of two things. You can take the sum of a range. You can take the sum of two ranges. There are really a whole lot of options with it. And, it's just a helpful quick tip if you want to take like the total instead of having in a total row in your table. You could just go ahead and use the sum formula. But if you did want to do a total row, you can go up to design and hit total row. Wow, that's so hard to say. Okay. Another quick tip there. So yeah, that's basically the introduction to formulas. We're going to go on to concatenate now. Okay, so to do this, you can see here that I have, well, basically I just want to explain the logic behind it. Sorry, I'm intimidating you guys. So here I have my Screaming Frog status codes. So I don't know if you guys have used the tool Screaming Frog. If you haven't, look it up. It's free. It's awesome. It gives you an internal, kind of audit, really, of how your site's doing internally and externally, a lot with your links. So these are basically the status codes of all of Authority Labs links. And, if status code's 200 means that it's doing well, that it's going through fine. If it had a 404, then that would kind of be a little bit worrisome. Whoops. Yeah, so anyway, I'm going to use the concatenate formula to say that I want to take this, the Authority Labs address, and add it to my URI. So a URI is basically just the after the domain. So I took this data series from Google Analytics, and when Google Analytics exports something, they export the URI. So it's going to be, it's just saying that this is a home page, which is authoritylabs.com, and then a backslash, which is saying that that's the home page. So I'm going to say that, maybe I don't like the URIs, maybe they confuse me in whatever way. So I'm going to use the concatenate formula to say that I want to take the Authority Labs domain, http blah 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 authoritylabs.com, and combine it with this value in this cell, any of these values. So I'm just basically, the idea behind it is that I want this data series to look like this data series, and we're going to use the concatenate formula to do that. So we're going to start by using the enter sign, and then we're going to start typing in concatenate, and then hit tab. So the first text that we're going to concatenate is, we could take, well, the idea behind this is that you could also just take a cell value, hit the comma, and then take another cell value, and then close the parentheses, and then you have the concatenation of both those. That's not something that I want to do right now. I'm just saying that that's an option. But, if I did that right now, it would look like authoritylabs.com //. It looks a little bit nutty. So what I'm going to do instead is start over with the concatenate formula. I'm actually going to go ahead and delete these. I just selected these rows by dragging it down and then hit the delete key. What I'm going to do is go ahead and start over, hit the enter key, go to concatenate, hit tab, and instead of selecting a cell value, I'm actually going to put in a string. So I can use this like a string of text. So if any of you have done programming, you're very well aware of what strings are and how to use them. It's kind of the same idea. You're going to put in a, what are those things called? Those little parentheses, little air quotes. Quotes, haha, found it. Okay, so you're going to put in quotes and hit the comma key and then select what you want to concatenate with. So inside those quotes, I'm just going to put in the value that I'd like to concatenate. So I'm going to put in http blah 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 blah.com, and the next thing I'm going to concatenate is with the cell page. And I'm just going to close my parentheses, and it automatically drags that down. You could deselect that. You could go ahead and delete those and just have it for this column. And if you wanted to drag them down on your own, you would just select this tiny little black X that happens in this corner and drag it down. But yeah, that's basically the idea behind the concatenate formula. If you go ahead and copy this and then paste it somewhere else, it's going to give you this error message because this is just a formula, and it's kind of like these are like ghost values right here because it's really just a formula saying that I want to grab that. So to get rid of that, and if you wanted to just have these as normal values, then you can go ahead and select these and you can copy them, and then you can go ahead up into copy, paste, and then you can go to paste values. So under here, you have paste values, and then it'll just give you the actual text. So now if I want to copy this and paste it somewhere else, it'll just be authoritylabs.com. So just another quick tip on how to work with formulas, because sometimes I know that was really frustrating for me at the beginning. I'm like, cool, okay, I got my concatenated, data, that's awesome. I would go to copy and paste it into another workbook, and it would give me this error message. And I'm like, I don't understand. It just said it was the values. Why is it erroring out? So yeah, copy and then paste special and then paste values is a way to get rid of that. Okay, so let's go on to VLOOKUPs. Okay, so here I have the same value, same data values. I actually went ahead and deleted these domains. So to do that, I actually went to I did Control F and I did a find and replace, and I found all of these, all of the authoritylabs.com, and replaced it with nothing, and then I replaced all of them. So another quick tip, another pro tip, it's awesome, find and replace, use it, it's amazing. Okay, back on schedule. VLOOKUPs. Now these are the ones that take a little bit more of, I guess, concentration really, because they're not that hard, it's just that they take a little bit of brain power, as opposed to just saying, I want a sum, here you go, here's the sum. Okay, so this looks complicated, it's really not. VLOOKUPs. The idea behind this is that you're saying that you want to have a lookup value, so you're saying that I want to look up this value right here, which is in I3. So we're actually going to start by just writing our own. So I'm just going to start with the equal sign, and actually going to go ahead and delete that, move this over a little bit, because I don't want it to be out of view. Okay, so we're going to start with an equal sign. We're going to start typing in VLOOKUP. Woohoo! I hit enter. Make sure you hit tab. VLOOKUP, when it gives you like the rest of the, when it basically Excel's like, okay, I got you, I got you. You go ahead and hit tab to continue the formula. So the lookup value is going to be the thing that we're kind of like looking for. So we're going to start by looking at H13. So you can either go ahead and select that, or you can write in H13. So we're saying that, look up this value, and that's the home page. Now we're going to hit the comma to go to the next option, and Excel's really cool about this because it gives you these little tips. It says lookup value, it says table array, it says column index number, so it's kind of like, okay, I'm going to help you out because these formulas get a little complicated. And that really happens with all formulas in Excel, that it gives you these little reminders on how to write them, which is actually really helpful. So next what we're going to do is go to our table array. We can figure that out on our own. That means that we're going to our table. So we can go ahead and select this table, or we can, I'm actually going to close this, it's going to give me error. We can go ahead and select this table on our own and say that this is, woohoo! Yeah, I already named this. So this is GA table. So to name this, you can go up into here and just type in whatever name that you want. Just make sure that there aren't any spaces in between it. So I just put in GA table, so that when you go to your VLOOKUP and you start writing it out, you can just look up the table without having to select it, and you can just look it up by typing it in. So I'm going to go ahead and type in H13 again. I'm going to hit comma. I'm going to type in GA table. So this is really cool because it actually gives you the values. It's like, oh, do you want GA table? It's like, oh, yes, I do. Thank you, Excel. And you can see that it automatically selects it. It highlights it and is really, pretty peach color. And it says that, okay, yeah, I understand that you want GA table, which is right over here in the peach. And you can hit comma. And then the next thing you're going to do is the column index number. So it's basically just saying that which column do you want me to grab the data from? So it's saying that I want to look up the home tab, or the home page. So it's right over here. And I'm going to say that I'm going to look in table 2 for it, or GA table for it. And then it's saying that which value do you want me to grab? And I'm going to say that I want column 3, which is 1, 2, 3. So actually, no, column 2. So I'm going to grab the average page load time. So it's 1, 2. And then I'm going to go on to the last thing, which it says true or false. True, nobody ever uses it. I mean, there are very, very, very few cases where you would use true and it's an approximate match, but it's not very helpful. I would go ahead and type in false, which is an exact match. And it's kind of just programming terms. It's, it's a little bit of jargon that you're going to have to do on the front end. But go ahead and hit enter. And there you have it. You have your average page load time over here from that page. So if anyone got confused by that, I understand. We're going to go ahead and do it one more time because VLOOKUPs can get confusing like that. And we're actually going to go ahead and go into it a different way, which is by the Formula tab. And I'm going to go ahead and delete these actually. I did that by selecting the cell, hitting Control and Shift, and then down arrow, and then hitting the delete key. I think that keyboard shortcuts are like my bread and butter. I work so much more quickly with them. And I think they're just really important to learn. They just take a tiny little bit of learning on the front end, and then you can use them forever. So they're really helpful. Yeah, so under the Formula tab, there are lookup and references. So you have all these different little cheat codes, and then you can select the VLOOKUP. So I know that some people here may have used the Formula tab before and not just hit the enter key. And so if you want to do that, here's another way to do a VLOOKUP. So you would start, it's literally the exact same thing as hitting the enter key and typing all this in. It's kind of easier for beginners this way. So just remember that you have these two options. I'm not exactly sure how this goes in the previous versions of Excel. I'm pretty sure they have this in 2010, but yeah, it's just another option that you have. So the lookup value, I'm going to go ahead, and actually I'm not going to do it in here just because I think it's going to get more confusing for you guys. So we're going to stick to this one. But just know that that's an option for you. Go ahead and explore it. There are tons of more tutorials on how to do that. This is more of an overview tutorial. So if you want to really get into VLOOKUPs, I think that this is the fastest way to do it and kind of best practice in my opinion. So we're going to go ahead and do it this way. So the lookup value, that's basically saying that, which thing do we want to look up? I'm going to go ahead and say that we want H11. Woohoo, H13. Which is right over here. So we're saying find this value in this data range. So then I'm going to type in GA table. So find the home page in this table. And once you have found that, once that this value equals this value, then go ahead and give me column 3. So go ahead and give me the page views for that. And then false because we want it to be an exact match. And then close the parentheses. It automatically drags that down in 2013. If you need to drag it down on your own, you just select the cell and hit the little black arrow and drag it down. Just an option. Okay, so you've probably seen all these NA errors. That's because when this formula went to run through and it said, okay, you want me to, find the privacy page over in this table and then give you back the page views. Okay, no problem. Looking over here, I don't see privacy page. Okay, I'm going to give you an error because there's no privacy page over there. And that makes perfect sense because over here in Screaming Frog, I have all the status codes for all of my pages on my website. And over here, I only have the top 10 site page times from Google Analytics. So it makes perfect sense that there are error messages and my formula is still working correctly. just to kind of explain that, So what I want to do is go ahead and select these from largest to smallest. So I did this. I did this by just selecting the filter key and then going from, I actually did smallest to largest. Or I could also just deselect this, the NA, and say that over here I have my status codes, my page views, and my page load time. These are all just filtering options. I have a whole tutorial on this. And you can just kind of play around with tables and filtering and all that. But yeah, that's basically the idea behind it. I know VLOOKUPs can get a little bit confusing, but they're really helpful if you say that, I have this huge data series and I want to grab in this data and I don't want to just copy and paste over and over and over again. That's really what formulas are made for, is to just kind of take away that, the inconvenience of saying that, I want to copy and paste all this data over here. Can you do it quickly for me? And it's like formulas are like, yeah, no problem. We got it. We got you. But yeah, that's basically it. Those are formulas. Or at least basic functions.
Cool. Well, thank you for going through all this, Tori.
Oh, you're very welcome.
I have to rewatch it again when I'm not looking at 10 things to make sure I got it. But
yeah, it takes a little bit of time. I would definitely suggest, I'll be posting the recap video later today or tomorrow morning, so you'll be able to watch this 100 times. I'm going to give you the Excel spreadsheet so you can do it on your own and practice it. It really does take practice. I think that functions and formulas are so useful as long as you just practice them. If you get intimidated by them in the beginning and don't practice them, then you're just going to sit there, copy, paste, Control Z, Control V all day, So formulas do save you a whole lot of time and effort and frustration.
Cool. Well, Michael King brought up VLOOKUP at SMX today.
Oh, really?
Everyone should do it when looking at their follower wonk data. So now they'll know how.
Well, there we go. I feel validated.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Tori. And if any of you all have questions for Tori, you can find her on Twitter at Tori Cushing.
Yes, very true.
All right, cool.
Awesome.
Thank you, Tori.
No problem. Thanks, guys.
All right, see ya.
Bye.
Bye.